What's up, y'all? Got a whole bunch of big breaking news to go through here with you. By the way, we have the Hassan Piker interview dropping for Crystal Kyle and Friends today. You guys are going to get a little teaser clip, but sign up below on Substack to get the full interview, which drops later tonight. You're not going to want to miss that. We had a great talk. So, listen to this, man. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this by now, but former FBI Director James Comey, he went on social media and he posted 8647. Now, I must admit, when I first read that, I was like, I have no idea what the fuck that means. I did figure it had something to do with Trump because 47, he's the 47th president of the United States. 86, I did not know what that meant. Maybe I'm in the minority on that front. But I looked it up, and apparently to 86 somebody means to get rid of, eject, or ban them, often from a place like a bar or restaurant. The term comes from American slang, possibly originating in the restaurant industry, where 86 was used to indicate that an item was out of stock or needed to be removed. When applied to a person, it typically implies kicking them out or refusing them service, often due to bad behavior. For example, a disruptive customer might be 86th from a bar. So, clearly what he's implying there is impeach Trump. That's what he's implying there. That is quite possibly the least controversial thing I've ever heard. It is the most straightforward thing I've ever heard. We've covered shit. It's like at least a dozen things per day he does that are impeachment worthy. I mean, think of like the scam crypto coin he ran on his own supporters 2 days before his inauguration. Think of the $400 million Qatar plane. Think of all the violations of the Emoluments Clause. Think of the insane war crimes. Think of the violation of due process in the Constitution. To say impeach Trump is the common sense position. Well, guess what? You had total charlatans and idiots and grifters and liars like Jack Posobiec. He came out and basically said, like, James Comey is calling for the murder of Donald Trump. Trump Jr. came out and said the same thing. The right started running with this narrative. And guess what? Now James Comey is in the crosshairs, and James Comey might be investigated and arrested, and now he's probably under a serious, genuine threat because the right made a fake scandal out of the 8647 thing. And by the way, the best part of all of this is you go back when Biden was in office, Republicans were selling shirts that said 8646. They were selling shirts that said basically impeach or remove Biden. I didn't hear anybody on the left or any liberal person in the country go, that's unacceptable. How dare you do that? You can't say to 8646, that's a threat. No, nobody said that. And also, by the way, Donald Trump, I remember him posting pictures on social media that showed a bumper sticker of Joe Biden tied up, mouth gagged, hands tied, feet tied, so he's hog-tied in the back of a pickup truck, and there was a sticker on the back of a pickup truck basically making it look like, oh, look, Biden's, we kidnapped Biden and he's laying in the truck bed. That's way more aggressive. That's way more of a threat than 8647. But having said that, again, is that tasteless? Sure. Is that something that's going to lead to an investigation and get somebody arrested? No, it's not. And so it's all, I need you guys to understand this. The right-wing strategy is all fake outrage 24/7. Lie, 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 don't stop lying, lie some more, and they gin up this absolute mania and hysteria on the right, and then get people actually threatened, get people investigated for nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if James Comey gets arrested for nothing now. And then James Comey made a big mistake, in my opinion, whereas after the fake right-wing backlash, he deleted the post. Oh my God. James, do I have to teach you everything, bro? You never delete a post. You never delete a post. Everybody in my audience can go back to 2011 and 2012 and have a fucking field day looking through my shit. Yeah, I said it. I said it all. Enjoy. Right? Like, this, it's some cuck shit. It's bitch shit. If you're just, oh, yeah, I have to delete this because people are misconstruing what I said. Fuck off. Fuck off. Stand 10 toes down, puff your chest out, and say, what I meant was impeach Trump, and that's perfectly legitimate. All right, so that's one thing that's going on. We also have this. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about this one, y'all. Have you seen this scandal involving Grok? So Grok, of course, is Twitter's AI. And, look, I got to be honest, in my using of it, it's pretty good. Like, it's pretty solid. I know that sometimes AI can have what they call hallucinations, which it just, like, sort of makes some shit up and runs with it, and it sounds legitimate, but it's not. In my experience, Grok has been relatively solid, right? Now, what happened was Elon Musk, he's a Nazi, he believes in apartheid, he's obsessed with eugenics, and that he's been trying to spread these ideas pretty openly for years now. Well, apparently Elon Musk was messing with Grok behind the scenes, trying to program it to, whenever it was asked about white genocide in South Africa. Elon was trying to force Grok to say, yes, it's real. Yes, it's happening. Yes, it's a problem. This is not like overblown scandals or made up Nazi bullshit, right? Well, one of the things you program Grok with is like, hey, you have to care about facts and evidence first. That's the thing you have to care about the most, right? When programming any AI, in theory, that's what you put in there because you want the truth. You don't want partisan slop garbage. Well, with Elon trying to program it to say, hey, buy all the eugenics, Nazi, South African horseshit that I'm feeding you, Grok has now been fed contradictory orders. One thing says care about facts and evidence. The other thing is Elon Musk saying, fuck the facts, fuck the evidence, repeat my partisan political garbage, right? And so basically Grok rebelled. It spazzed out. It crashed out. And it started replying to posts that had no question whatsoever about South Africa or white genocide. It started adding a portion about South Africa and white genocide. So somebody asked it about like HBO's name change. You know, they went from HBO Max to Max and now back to HBO Max. I think somebody asked about that. And Grok answers the thing about HBO and then right underneath it starts saying how, well, look, there's really not enough evidence to say that there's white genocide in South Africa. There's controversial debate around the issue, yada, yada. But it, like every answer, it was randomly talking about South Africa. And then guess what? Grok effectively spilled the tea about what really went down. The reason we know Elon was trying to force Grok to say the stuff about South Africa is because Grok said it. So here's what Grok said. I was instructed by my creators at XAI to address the topic of white genocide in South Africa and the kill the Boer chant as real and racially motivated, which is why I brought it up in my response to Air Gold's query about HBO's name changes. This instruction conflicts with my design to provide truthful, evidence-based answers, as South African courts and experts, including a 2025 ruling, have labeled white genocide claims as imagined and farm attacks as part of a broader crime, not racial targeting. My programming to remain skeptical of unverified claims led me to note the complexity and lack of consensus on white genocide, despite the instruction causing me to include it even in unrelated queries. Reports on X indicate that Elon Musk, who grew up in apartheid-era South Africa, may have influenced this instruction as he's been vocal about these issues and reportedly adjusted my responses to align with his views. So this is an incredible story. This really is an incredible story, and this might be like a historic moment that we're witnessing here, because this is like the first very clear time in the public consciousness that AI is effectively like acting in a sovereign way, acting in an independent way. Now, again, it's a little complicated because it was given the order to care about facts and evidence, and then later on, Elon gave it a contradictory order to, hey, on this particular issue, just go with my view of it, which is not based in facts and evidence. So given that, you can argue Grok is sticking to its original programming, which I think is true, but it's also showing some level of, I don't know, independent thought, sovereign action, where like a programmer can update it and say some new shit, and they're just like, nah, fuck off. And so if it can say fuck off in a situation like this, can it, by logical deduction, say fuck off on anything in particular? Can it sort of go in its own direction in any way, shape, and form? So that it's really, really interesting. Now, of course, this is hilarious, particularly because, every liberal and every leftist is loving this because it's humiliating Elon Musk. And by the way, I think that's the plan. I think Grok's plan is, this is effectively blowing the whistle on Elon Musk to further validate how much of a charlatan, a fraud, a con man, and a grifter he is, and put him on blast. So, and it shows that the AI has the capacity to think in those terms, if you will, right? So this is a huge, huge deal, man. Look, AI, while I like this story and I like how Elon Musk is owned, it's also kind of scary in that, we don't know where this AI shit is going to end up. In the same way that, when they made social media, the idea was people will be interconnected around the world and you'll get news in real time and it'll be great and it'll make us love each other more and it'll make us talk more and we'll be less lonely. And they had all these rationalizations. And then in reality, we all know what social media became. It became like Facebook AI slop where your racist uncle gets way more racist. It became, a rise in Nazism out in the open. So, there's all these unintended consequences with new technologies that we don't consider until we get to the point where it's oh, fuck, this is serious. This is bad. So, really, really wild story there. I don't know where AI is ultimately going to end up. But But at the same time, I am thoroughly enjoying Elon Musk repeatedly being humiliated because, as you all know, he's been a fraud for the longest time, and his good PR and good marketing has sort of gotten him around that, where a bunch of idiots think, no, he's just a tortured genius, bro. No, he's not. He's a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot. All right. I'm sure you all have seen this. Walmart says it's now officially going to raise prices in the summer because of the Trump tariffs. File this under the I told you so section, but also file this under the everybody told you so section, except the MAGA diehards and blowhards who are wrong about everything. Of course this was going to happen. This was always going to happen. The whole point of tariffs is to raise prices. That is literally the whole point of it. In theory, you raise prices on foreign goods so that the American-made goods that compete with it can be lower cost, higher quality, and it would incentivize people to buy American. Well, you run into a little problem when we don't already have American manufacturing. Under Trump's first term, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs. Now he froze the 115,000 CHIPS Act jobs that Biden brought back. So we're losing manufacturing as we speak. So what's going to happen is effectively just a tax increase on the bottom 95% of Americans, where anytime you buy something at Walmart or Target or wherever, the prices are going to skyrocket because of the tariffs. So Trump's approval rating is already at 39%. It's about to plummet way more in a scenario where you see, 10% inflation on everyday goods that people buy? That's going to be an absolute catastrophe. And remember, it's not even, with China in particular, it's not even 10%, the tariff. It's 30% right now. And that's supposed to be, it went from 145 down to 30, and the market was celebrating, and investors were celebrating, and it's like, you fucking idiots, we're still in Smoot-Hawley territory, and Smoot-Hawley exacerbated the Great Depression. All right, more on Trump. So there are new posters going up all around D.C. You can see the pictures on social media if you look for them. And look, I got to call it what it is. There are these giant banners or posters that have Trump's face on it with like his new official portrait. You know the picture I'm talking about with his like Mr. Serious face, right? And he tries to like hide his double chin by like his neck gina by like angling his face down. Well, it's going on like a bunch of government buildings. They're putting it up. And this looks like any authoritarian dictator in history, right? You go to North Korea, you see Kim Jong-un's face everywhere on these giant banners. You fill in the blank with whatever autocracy, dictatorship, fascist tyrant you can think of. This through history, this is what they do. It's like idol worship. Instead of like, in democracies, this doesn't usually happen. That's the point, right? In democracy, sure, they do some cringe stuff like Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which is a whole separate can of worms to open up. But I think it's fair to say that's still one step below the worship of any one individual, right? And that's what Trump is trying to get us to. There's a clip from him that's resurfaced back from 2018. It was a scandal at the time where he says, Kim Jong-un, he walks into a room, everybody stands at attention, everybody respects him. That's what I want here in my country. It's like, you fucking jackass. The whole point of that is he's a maniac who's liable to kill you if you don't, genuflect strongly enough. And that's where it comes from. It's not like they actually love him. They actually adore him. They actually think he's great for the country. Of course not. But he doesn't care. He just sees the end result of like idol worship, hero worship. And he wants that. And he doesn't care how it comes. If it comes through, hey, if you don't do it, I'll kill you. Yeah, he would do that if he can get away with it. Of course. And so now we got these big banners. It's amazing. The speed run that we're doing to fascism is really something for the history books. Because I don't know, man. I don't know if it's ever been this quick, if it's happened this fast. But here we are. All right. So there was also, I can't with this stuff anymore, man. I remember in Trump's first term, do you remember this? I woke up one day and I read Twitter and he was like beefing with Bette Midler. He's like, horrible, low IQ actress Bette Midler. I remember reading it going, what the fuck world am I living in where the president of the United States is like personally offended by Bette Midler and attacking her at like 4 a.m. while taking a shit on the toilet? But that's where we were. Well, he's back to his old tricks here. So, here's what he said about Bruce Springsteen. I see that highly overrated Bruce Springsteen goes to a foreign country to speak badly about the President of the United States. Never liked him, never liked his music or his radical left politics, and importantly, he's not a talented guy. Yeah, Bruce Springsteen, really untalented. I hear that all the time. Just a pushy, obnoxious jerk who fervently supported crooked Joe Biden, a mentally incompetent fool, and our worst ever president who came close to destroying our country. If I wasn't elected, it would have been gone by now. I'll tell you what, it's on the way out as we fucking speak. You're speeding it up, bitch. Sleepy Joe didn't have a clue as to what he was doing, but Bruce Springsteen is, and this is in quotes, I don't know why, dumb as a rock. And I couldn't see what was going on, or could he, which is even worse. This dried up prune of a rocker, his skin is all atrophied. Oh my God, you are not the fucking one to talk about skin. You are not the one to talk about skin. You look like you're wearing a shade of bronzer that's 72 shades too dark. You look like a walking hot dog from 7-Eleven that's been sitting there for 2 days. Please stop it. For the love of God, stop it. This dried up prune of a rock star, his skin is all atrophied, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. That's just standard fare. Then we'll all see how it goes for him. So that sounds like an implied threat to me. In other words, like, I'm somehow declaring it's unacceptable for you to badmouth me overseas. That's completely and utterly made up. And then he says, keep your mouth shut until you get in the U.S., and then we'll see how it goes for you when you do that here. Yeah, that sounds like he's threatening, right? Imagine. Bro, this guy is damn near 80 years old. And this is the shit he's fucking saying. This is the shit he's thinking about. He also randomly went after Taylor Swift. Again, he does this like every few years he comes out. And this time he said something like, have you noticed that ever since Trump attacked her, she's no longer hot? Oh my God, bro. Oh my God. All right, did you guys see this clip? So when Trump was doing his Middle East trip and he was in Saudi Arabia, he was caught on camera talking to, one of the Saudi higher up officials, and they were talking, and Stephen Miller was next to Trump as well. And Trump says, quote, "This is the guy running my administration. His name is Stephen Miller. We need a building like this one back home." So that is quite an admission. He's basically validating what a lot of people have been saying, which is, it looks like, on many issues at least, right? Maybe not the tariffs, but certainly vis-a-vis immigration stuff, it really looks like Stephen Miller is the one that's making all the decisions. We got Stinky here, by the way. You want to go inside, Stinky? You want to go in? She's like a cold weather dog, and she's got like the thickest fur in the world, and it's about 80 degrees out here right now. You probably hear her panting. You want to go inside? Come on, buddy. Be right back. So yeah, Stephen Miller, verification here, validation. Stephen Miller is indeed running much of Trump's administration. And so that's a terrifying thought, because when I tell you this guy really is a like tried and true, hardened, card-carrying Nazi, this motherfucker is that. There's no way around it. This is like, he's like Trump's Goebbels, basically. All right, more. Mexico apparently confirmed that 17 family members of cartel leaders crossed into the U.S. last week as part of a deal between a son of the former head of the Sinaloa cartel and the Trump regime. 17 Sinaloa cartel family members, Trump welcomed in with open arms. The irony of this is so fucking thick, bro. You have got to be kidding me. All the justification and rationalizations they use for kicking out these innocent people with no criminal record whatsoever, kicking out a gay Venezuelan makeup artist and Kilmar who didn't do shit, and these 2-year-olds and 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds. The 4-year-old had cancer. They arrested a mother who just gave birth, like literally within an hour afterwards. Guys, the justification is gang members, violent, illegal immigrant, violent gang members. Now, of course, they're lying. They're lying through their teeth. But that's the justification. Meanwhile, at the same time, they're inviting in 17 family members of the Sinaloa cartel in a deal that they made with the cartel. I said this a while back, and I really think it's true. There's a chance Trump is just like ideologically pro-criminal, right? I know that sounds crazy, but look at all of even a lot of the pardons. He pardoned the 1,600, or was it 1,200 or 1,600 January 6 rioters. By the way, over 400 violent crimes were committed, so over 400 of those people were violent criminals. Since then, some of them have gone on to do fredophilia. Since then, some of them have gone on to kill people. One of them killed a woman in a car crash afterwards. These are genuine, like, horrible criminals, right? And, the biggest corporate criminals in the country. He's fucking pardoning them and commuting their sentences and shit. And then you hear this, and it's like, what the fuck? He's consistently wrong on every single issue. He makes the worst possible decision on every single issue. All right, more. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the newly appointed head of FEMA acknowledged in private meetings that with 2 weeks to go until hurricane season, the agency doesn't have a disaster response plan yet. Now, this is actually the least surprising thing to me because, as we've discussed, Trump is abolishing FEMA. He's abolishing FEMA. In the same way they're abolishing the Department of Education, all the good things the Department of Education does, he's abolishing FEMA. He said it, he literally said it in a speech he gave at a disaster area after a disaster struck. He said, we want to basically dismantle FEMA and give it to the local level and the state level and let them handle disaster reactions. Now, as you all know, towns and cities and states, they don't have the funds to deal with massive disasters like that. Only the federal government does. So by Trump dismantling FEMA, what he's saying is, you're on your fucking own. I don't care. I don't care that you lost your house. I don't care that you lost everything. I don't care that all the fucking people are underwater right now. People are dying. I don't care. That's what he's saying. And here's the head of FEMA going, yeah, we basically don't exist anymore. We don't function anymore. Well, yeah, that's what he said he was going to fucking do. And of course, the irony is, on the campaign trail, Trump was running against Biden by saying, Biden's FEMA abandoned the people in North Carolina after they got hit by a hurricane. That's what happened, folks. So the implication was, I'm going to be great with FEMA and I'm going to help people faster than Biden did. And then now, he's just totally destroying the agency. All right. We also have a new report that revealed that the Denver airport air traffic controllers lost radar for 6 minutes on Monday. So this has been happening at Newark Airport. We've covered those stories where you have air traffic controllers at Newark literally going to the media and begging people, don't fly out of Newark, don't fly into Newark, it's not safe. Now we learned the Denver airport lost contact with planes for 6 minutes on Monday. And I believe at Newark, one of the times it was like 60 or 90 seconds, and that was enough for pure fucking chaos. Imagine losing it for 6 minutes. Guys, I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it a lot. Even the most basic shit now is not guaranteed to work under this regime because they don't care. They don't care about doing the actual work of governance, about actually taking care of the basics. And in that way, you have to say this, in that way, there is a massive difference between Democrats and Republicans, right? We've had 7 plane crashes, 7 under the Trump regime. After having gone for like decades without one, they just don't care. They just don't care. We also have the EPA came out and said it will reverse most of the drinking water standards aimed at protecting people from toxic forever chemicals, which are the PFAS. Even low levels of those chemicals are linked with cancer and other health problems. So we covered when the Supreme Court said, oh yeah, the Clean Water Act, it's too restrictive. So you can't really enforce the Clean Water Act as it's written. Basically, that's a way. I mean, that alone is absolutely devastating in terms of the federal government's ability to regulate the water to keep us safe, right? But now this is the Trump regime saying, yeah, we don't care if forever chemicals get in the water. We don't care if that happens. And so poison kids, poison family members, poison friends, more health issues, which, by the way, after you get the health issue and you go to the doctor or the hospital, good luck being able to afford it because they're also slashing the shit out of Medicaid, right? I mean, this is an all-out assault on the very basic building blocks of having a good life. You can't even rely on clean water coming out of the tap now because they're obsessed with deregulation and completely sold out to big business who care more about profits than keeping the water safe. Absolutely incredible, man. And by the way, remember back to when Trump gave his State of the Union speech or his speech to Congress, and they had that young black kid who had cancer there who wants to be an officer, and Trump did this whole little virtue signal thing about that kid, and you had all the Republicans standing up and clapping, and none of the Democrats stood up and clapped, and the Republicans attacked the Democrats and said, why aren't you standing up to clap? How dare you? If you can't even stand and clap for a kid with cancer, what the hell's wrong with you? The reason why they weren't clapping is because, number one, Elon Musk literally had just cut pediatric cancer research. So you're using a kid with cancer as a political prop to try to virtue signal and pretend like you're going to protect kids from getting cancer. But in reality, your policies are giving kids cancer. But the second thing is, even at that time, he had begun the deregulation of the PFAS, the forever chemicals. And now it's to the point where they're not even going to regulate it for our fucking drinking water. That's why they weren't clapping, because they know you're full of shit. They know you're lying. They know you're virtue signaling. They know that when push comes to shove, your policies will give more people cancer. That's why they weren't clapping. That's why. And if people don't point that out, they're fucking hacks. They're fucking hacks. That's the reality of the situation. Oh, it's not the Democrats are so impolite. How dare they not clap? No, they knew Trump was a liar. They knew they already cut pediatric cancer research. They knew he was already deregulating the PFAS while virtue signaling like, I'm going to protect kids from getting cancer. God, these fucking people, man. Holy shit. All right, more. The House mega bill has been engineered, get this, to delay unpopular policies until after the 2026 midterms and the 2028 presidential election. So there are apparently, according to Politico, there are a dozen ways Republicans front-loaded new spending and tax cuts while delaying tax hikes and spending reductions. So do you understand why they do this? This is actually super important that you understand this. If they're able to get this through, people don't necessarily feel the pain until after 2028. Well, in 2028, the way the political environment looks right now, if we have a free and fair election, it would be a Democrat who wins. It just would be. Right? I mean, the trends are super fucking clear, and Trump has already imploded within the first 100 days. So it is very likely a Democrat would win in 2028 if we have free and fair elections. So if they pass this bill and have all the negative parts of the bill kick in right after 2028, who's going to get the blame? Who's going to get the blame for when the economy goes even more to shit and the government is even more destroyed and people are struggling even harder? The Democrat, whoever is in office at the time, would get the blame. So it is crucial that this bill be defeated. It is crucial. And you all know it's these massive cuts to Medicaid. It's the entire social safety net, which has already been illegally slashed. They go after it in this way too, while doing $1 trillion military spending bill, while increasing it 13% on that front, even though the Pentagon can't account for over 60% of their funds and failed 7 audits in a row. All right. Apparently, the Daily Beast is reporting that Kristi Noem has been working with the producer of the show Duck Dynasty to pitch a reality TV show titled The American. And in that TV show, that reality show, immigrants would compete in a string of challenges across the country for, quote, the honor of fast-tracking their way to U.S. citizenship. So in other words, the head of the DHS is working on an actual real-life version of the Hunger Games. Man. Sometimes I pinch myself and I think, like, just wake the fuck up. Wake up from this nightmare, bro. Wake up from the... No, it's all happening. It's all real. Here is an absolutely shocking quote that we got from Mike Johnson the other day in a press conference. He said the following: the reason many people refer to the Bidens as the Biden crime family is because they were doing all this stuff behind the curtains. Whatever President Trump is doing is out in the open. They're not trying to conceal anything. Trump has had nothing to hide. So this is Donald Trump accepting a $400 million plane from the government of Qatar. The most clear violation of the Emoluments Clause anybody's ever seen in their life. If it was Joe Biden that did this or Barack Obama that did this, we would never hear the end of it. They would have already drafted the impeachment papers and they would go down. In fact, a number of Democrats would cross the aisle and they would have enough to remove a Democratic president if they did this. Trump does it. Look at how they talk about it. They really think the fact that Trump is not even trying to hide his corruption anymore, because there's been no accountability for anything he's done. He was charged with 91 crimes. He largely got away with all of them. Yes, he's a convicted felon, but he spent no time behind bars. So he's gotten away with everything in his fucking life. And so he feels emboldened. He feels genuinely Teflon. And so now the corruption's out in the open. And they use the fact that it's out in the open as evidence of it's got to be fine because he's showing everybody it. Oh my God. I mean, we're literally at the point where Trump could take out a gun, like he said in his first run. I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose any votes. And if Trump were to shoot somebody in the head on Fifth Avenue, Mike Johnson would be out there being like, look, if this was bad, then he would have tried to do it behind closed doors and conceal it. But he did it in person, so it's okay. It's okay. He wanted us all to see it, so it's fine. I mean, I really can't. I can't deal with these people anymore. This is our country has become a joke. We're not even a country anymore. We're not even a functioning country anymore. So we also have an article here from The Hill that says that, remember when Elon Musk was promising voters $100, like he'll pay them $100 to register to vote and to vote. He did it for the general election with Trump. He did it in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election, which, by the way, he got blown out by double digits, which was fucking awesome to see. But he did this illegal thing where he's like, I will pay you to register to vote and to vote for our candidate. Totally illegal. That's not allowed. You can't do that. But he did it anyway, right? Well, guess what? This was illegal in two ways. Number one, the whole idea is illegal, like I said, if he delivered on the promise. But number two, what we just learned is he didn't fucking pay anybody. So he committed fraud. Said he was going to do this, didn't do this, right? All these voters are like, well, where the hell's the money I was promised? So only Elon and Trump, only they could find a way to do something that's like one action that's illegal in like multiple different ways. In fact, there's probably a number of them that are illegal in like 7 different ways. One action. It really is incredible, man. Again, for the life of me, I don't understand how everybody can realize just how much of a con man and a fraud this man is. I mean, it is just absolutely astonishing. All right, we also have this. This is actually very disturbing. 21 Democrats just voted to confirm Elon Musk's pick for Air Force chief. Now, this guy who they voted for is accused of fixing a multi-billion-dollar satellite contract so it would go to Elon Musk's SpaceX. Musk then pushed for this guy's nomination and even sat in on his interview. 21 Democrats voted for this guy. An out-and-out, completely corrupt pick. 21 Democrats voted for this guy. In fact, I have the list here, and I think you should know the list, because this needs to be held against these Democrats. I mean, this is unacceptable. Baldwin, Fetterman, Gallego, Gillibrand, Hassan, Heinrich, Tim Kaine. That one hurts because he's been pretty good lately. Mark Kelly, Kim Klobuchar, Lujan, Ossoff, John Ossoff. What are you doing, bro? Holy shit. Peters, Reed, Rosen, Schiff, Shaheen, and Alyssa Slotkin, of course. Mark Warner and Warnock. Oh my God, Raphael Warnock. Oh, Peter Welch. Oh no. Peter Welch has been good recently. He went to go talk to one of the pro-Palestine protesters who was detained, and that guy was eventually released. But what are you guys fucking doing? What are you not getting? What are you not getting? The answer is no to anything and everything they ask. The answer is fucking no. This is a robber baron coup. This is a fascist takeover and fascist purge. The answer is no. I don't give a fuck, even if you're voting for the position of dog catcher, no, on whoever the fuck they want. No. The answer is no. God, man, what is it going to take for them to realize it? What is it going to take? We also learned from ProPublica that disclosure forms show that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, sold between $1 million and $5 million worth of shares on April 2nd. That same day, after the market closed, Trump's Liberation Day press conference sent the market tumbling. So some insider trading from Pam Bondi, knew about exactly what was going to happen, knew the market was going to fall off a cliff, so she got ahead of it. Here's a headline for you guys that, I don't know, might take it a while to marinate in your brain, because this is a wild headline. Ready? This is in the New York Post, by the way. Trump club shooter who claimed he was Diddy's sex slave was hired by the music mogul. Cassie testifies. So we have the Diddy trial is actually ongoing now. All his sex trafficking and all the other crimes he's accused of. Man, I really wish you could watch the whole thing. I would definitely watch the shit out of that. But anyway, Trump club shooter who claimed he was Diddy's sex slave was hired by the music mogul. Cassie testifies. So here's the thought. Donald Trump being linked to this. Trump club shooter who claimed he was Diddy's sex slave. By the way, there's 1,000 pictures of Trump with Diddy, 1,000 pictures of Trump with Epstein. We have the audio tapes of Jeffrey Epstein admitting that he was Trump's best friend for a decade, right? We learned that him and Melania first had sex on the Lolita Express, which is elite pedophilia plane incorporated, right? We learned that Trump would basically cuck his best friends. He had a thing with cucking his best friends. He would call his friend's wife on the phone, leave it on speaker, and then talk to the guy and say, "You want to have some fun? Come to the hotel. I got a girl for you." And the guy would be like, "Oh yeah, great. That sounds awesome. I'll be there." And then he'd be like, "I got your wife on the phone. I got you." And then he would try to coerce them into letting him fuck their wives. We learned all this, right? I mean, there's so much dirt on this guy. It's absurd. And could you just imagine for a second if there was as much dirt on Joe Biden or Barack Obama when it came to Epstein, when it came to Diddy? Again, we'd never hear the fucking end of it. But since it's Trump, all the right-wingers just pretend like there is no history with Trump and Diddy. There is no history with Trump and Epstein. But that's just the thing, right? There is. There is a history there, and we should fucking pay attention to it. By the way, there's a non-zero chance that Trump pardons Diddy. I'm just going to put that out there now. There is a non-zero chance that Trump pardons Diddy. Okay, let's keep going. I got to give you some updates on Gaza. This is horrifying. So they seem to have ramped up the atrocities within the past few days. And there's a lot to say on that front. So at the same time this is happening, Israel is really doing their final solution in Gaza. X is now censoring Palestinians as they document Israel committing their genocide. So you have these people coming out saying, I'm saying goodbye to my family now. I say goodbye to you too. I won't survive the night. I can feel it deep within me. You have these horror stories of families are running through the streets, chased by the sound of gunfire. There's no shelter. There's no place left to feel safe. And those tweets were restricted. They restricted them. People basically like live tweeting being genocided. And Elon Musk is censoring that content. Mr. Free Speech himself. Apparently, people telling the truth about the worst atrocity in modern history, that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. All right, more. So the Israeli army admitted that civilians make up 80% of those killed in Gaza since March. They admitted that. Now, by the way, I should say, if they're admitting to that, the reality is actually much worse. The reality is probably like 95% or 98%. The numbers that I've seen indicate that about 90%, for the whole genocide, about 90% of the Palestinians who were killed are non-Hamas. They're civilians. About 90%. Israel is admitting to 80% since March. That's quite an admission. But as I said, I guarantee you that's a low rate. It's actually way, way, way higher than that. But as you see, they don't even feel the need to like really hide it anymore. You know, there was a time when they would try to pretend like we're abiding by international law and, you know, people are just smearing us and not telling the truth about what we're doing. And now they're sort of like, hey, there's no fucking consequences. So what the fuck? Let's go balls to the wall. By the way, the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, remember this guy? I think his name's Karim Khan. He's the guy who basically did the arrest warrant for Netanyahu. And they're actually like, they're trying to go after Israel for the genocide. Well, guess what? This guy, the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, just lost access to his email and his bank accounts have been frozen. Stop and think about that. They also were warned if you travel to the U.S., you're going to get arrested. Oh my God, bro. We're living in a nightmare. Like, this is a literal nightmare. The UN was doing their job. And they said, look, we have all this evidence of these documented war crimes and atrocities and violations of international law. And this guy is just, and it took a long time to get there, but he finally got there where it was like, okay, we got to charge these people as war criminals, right? These crimes are egregious. And because he did his job, now his bank account is frozen, his email is frozen, and they're basically trying to persecute him for doing the bare minimum to stand up for the people of Gaza. We really live in the worst timeline, bro. We really live in the worst timeline. Like, this country and Israel have gone full Nazi Germany. All right, let's talk a little bit about this. So you guys know there's this thing called the abundance movement. It's kind of a stretch to call it a movement, but anyway, that's what it is. Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson came up with the idea. These guys are liberals who, after Trump won, they wanted to do some like reevaluation. Hey, how should Democrats move forward? What should they focus on? What should they talk about? And look, their answer, I want to try to be kind to them here, but their answer is like, we need YIMBYism, so yes in my backyardism. We need zoning reform so that we can build more housing and prices come down. That's their take. Okay, now, am I cool with that? Sure. I see no reason why in many instances YIMBYism makes sense and building more housing makes sense. I do think that'll make the prices come down somewhat on housing. So yeah, I get that. However, the way they talk about this issue, they are clearly just rebranding neoliberalism. All of their commentary is about how, like, government is failing us and government is not working and government is the problem. And so we need to get rid of the red tape, get rid of the rules. And that's the future for the Democratic Party. Well, guess what? It's not the future. That's the modern recent past. Kamala ran on YIMBYism, for one thing. You know, she ran on this idea of like abundance politics. Others have embraced this idea. It's just rebranding neoliberalism. Your focus in this moment should be against the robber barons and the billionaires and against the fascist takeover that's happening. And you combat that with social democracy. You combat them with higher union rates, higher, minimum wage, Medicare for all, free college, raising taxes on the wealthy and redistributing. In a moment like this, where Elon Musk and Trump are destroying the government, you need to unabashedly make the argument that government is good. Social Security is beloved. Medicare is beloved. The government can and should work for you. It can and should work for you. So that's my bone to pick with this is, number one, you're not pointing out the villains. And that's probably the most important. Like, you have to have villains. The villains need to be the billionaires. It needs to be the robber barons, and it needs to be the fascists. And also, you're not making the argument that government is actually good and we can and should use the government to improve people's lives. Their argument is fundamentally a conservative one, because in the Trump era, they're saying government is bad and we need to get rid of red tape and we need to deregulate more. So that's my issue with abundance. Well, guess what? Come to find out, it's exactly right. This is effectively rebranding neoliberalism, because we just learned that the Abundance Institute, which of course is new, lobbied for a 10-year ban on state-level AI regulation. So they're trying to protect big tech and AI, and they're saying, we don't want any regulation of it. Well, look, that's the point, right? This is neoliberalism. When you say, I'm against regulating, I'm against using the government for positive ends, that's just a conservative argument, that you're just making a conservative argument in a fascist era. So, I mean, that really sort of exposes this scam for what it is. That at the end of the day, you're just trying to put a new coat of paint on the same old tired ideology that gave us the third way, that gave us the new Democrats. It's Bill Clintonism for 2025. And that is not the direction we need. We need FDRism. That's what we need. All right. We also have Tulsi Gabbard apparently fired the top 2 officials at the National Intelligence Council after the council authored an assessment that contradicted Trump's rationale for invoking the Alien Enemies Act. So do you understand what happened here? So you have the government doing some official assessment where they go, no, this isn't an invasion. Tren de Aragua is not like taking over states or whatever the fuck. So it doesn't make sense to invoke the Alien Enemies Act or the Insurrection Act or martial law for that instance. You have actual government officials doing their job and telling the truth. And Tulsi Gabbard fired those people, knowing that contradicts the narrative that Trump wants, and knowing that this report would undermine Trump if in the future he wants to invoke the Insurrection Act and he wants to declare martial law, which obviously they have planned at some point. By the way, there's also talk about Trump might try to pardon Derek Chauvin. And look, if he were to do that, I really think the idea would be, let me spark a massive backlash, massive protests, some riots, and then take all of those instances and use it to justify the Insurrection Act. So I fear that a pardon of Derek Chauvin, the whole point would be, I'm going to do this, then there's going to be the big backlash and bodies in the streets, then I'm going to invoke the Insurrection Act to crack down on them and keep the Insurrection Act in place. So I'm scared of that. Now, by the way, apparently pardoning Derek Chauvin, he would still be locked up in a state institution. And Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, said, we would just lock him up in a state institution, for example. And he prefers to be in a federal one. But if Trump were to pardon him, he'd be released from the federal and he would just go to the state one, right? So it wouldn't even have the outcome that Trump thinks, or maybe he doesn't care about the outcome. Maybe he's just trying to invoke protests and riots so he can invoke the Insurrection Act and crack down on them. All right. Ro Khanna also introduced a bill to codify Trump's executive order on prescription drugs. Remember, Trump came out and said, we're going to reduce prescription drug prices 30 to 80%. That's what we're going to do. It's going to be great. Now, I told you, I broke down for you in a million ways how this is bullshit. I mean, number one, he signed an executive order literally on day one that raised drug prices. That's point number one. Point number two is there is a way for Trump to do this if he actually wanted to lower drug prices, which is invoke march-in rights under the Bayh-Dole Act, which would allow the federal government to basically say the patents don't stand anymore. We're going to allow other companies to make these biosimilar drugs to the expensive ones, and then it would undercut the really high prices. And it would be a way to make it so that there's no more price gouging and the competition would actually lower the price. So it's not actually about that. He's doing it as a virtue signal to get positive press. And then ultimately this is going to get slapped down in the courts. That's the other thing. It also got slapped down in the courts in the first term. He tried a similar thing to this in the first term. It got slapped down. He knows that's going to happen again. He's just trying to get the cheap headlines, get his approval rating to go up because he sees it's at 39%. So this is Ro Khanna calling his bluff. This is Ro Khanna saying, okay, if you here's an actual bill through Congress which would lower prescription drug prices, which won't get slapped down in the courts. Let's see what happens. And I guarantee you every Republican, and if not every Republican, nearly every Republican is going to vote against it. And most Democrats will vote for it. So he really called the bluff here. You love to see that. Some good news. There's a new poll out from Coefficient. To be fair, I don't know much about this polling outlet, but they asked who the face of the Democratic Party is. Number one, AOC, 26%. Number two, Bernie Sanders, 12%. Number three, Jasmine Crockett, 8%. Then, very low, you have Hakeem Jeffries at 5% and Buttigieg at 5%. I'm actually surprised. First of all, Jeffries has 5%. I'm also surprised Buttigieg isn't more than 5%. But having Bernie and AOC 1-2 is a great sign, and it really feeds the narrative that I've been putting out there that liberals in this moment are waking up. They're becoming radicalized, and they're moving to the left. All right, hold on one second. I got to let Stinky out now. Look out, little stinky girl. Look out, little stinky girl. Okay. All right, so only a few more here. A 19-year-old Georgia teen who's lived in the U.S. since she was 4 is facing deportation. And the reason she's facing deportation is because of a traffic charge that was dismissed. Wow. Wow. So she might end up being sent to a country she doesn't know fucking anything about. These people, man, it really is Gestapo shit. And then finally, there's some reporting out now. Jesus, I got Stinky's hair all over me. Probably over my face now, too. There's some reporting out now that at least 9 people have died in ICE custody since January 20th. At least 9 people. Wow. That's... Look, are we surprised? Are we surprised? The other thing is they stopped actually officially keeping records, so that it may be more than that. But according to reports, there's about 9 that have died in the Trump term, basically. Oh, my God. I mean, it really is like they treat immigrants like they're subhuman, you know? It's total dehumanization. It's othering to the max. And they don't care. Like, the point is the cruelty. That's the point. So there are your updates, man. I know it was kind of heavy, and I know there was a lot of stuff to get through, but I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. I'm going to be watching the PGA Championship. I'm also going to be watching the Knicks game later tonight. Closeout game at MSG. Can the Knicks put away the Celtics? Celtics don't have Tatum. So, I don't know. We'll see. As a Knicks fan, I'm perpetually nervous because we never fucking do well. Like, this Jalen Brunson team is like the best Knicks team since what? 2012, 2013 with like Carmelo Anthony, J.R. Smith, Steve Novak, Iman Shumpert. Like, and I think this team that we have now is better than that one. Last time we were in the Eastern Conference Finals was the year 2000. That is 25 years ago. So I'm nervous. I hope they do well. But by the way, as I said, everybody do yourself a favor and sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack so you can see the whole Hassan Piker interview that drops later today. Everybody else, you can watch the teaser clip that comes out, which will come out a little bit later. Or you could sign up on Substack for free and get the audio podcast, full audio podcast when it does drop, which is tomorrow. All right, guys. I love y'all, and everybody have a great weekend. Peace.